Thought it would be, well, I mean, so these are the questions that were provided to you, but I figured that rather than me quickly trying to scramble, yeah, do that ahead of time. So thought it would be, well, I mean, so these are the questions. Oh, yeah. Is that okay, Joe? Rather than me quickly trying to scramble, yeah, I thought it would be, well, I mean, so these are the questions. Oh, yeah. Is that okay, Joe? Rather than me quickly trying to scramble, yeah, I thought it would be, well, I mean, so these are the questions. Oh, yeah. Is that okay, Joe? Rather than me quickly trying to scramble, yeah, I thought it would be, well, I mean, so these are the questions. Oh, yeah. Is that okay, Joe? Rather than me quickly trying to scramble, yeah, I thought it would be, well, I mean, so these are the questions. Oh, yeah. Is that okay, Joe? Throw something at me. Thought it would be, well, I mean,
All right, I think we're ready to go.
is that okay, Joe? Throw something at me.
Ready in the booth, Mr. Robbins? All right, excellent.
Thought it would be,
Good evening, parents
I
and
think we're
community
ready to
members,
go.
and good evening, candidates. Thank you all
Ready
for
in
taking
the
the time
booth,
to be
Mr.
here with us
Robbins?
this fine evening, and thank you to the
All right,
candidates for
excellent.
expressing an
thought it
interest
would be,
in serving. Good evening, parents
I
and
think we're
community
ready to
members,
go.
and good evening,
My name
candidates.
is Robert.
Thank you
Klein.
all for
Ready in
taking
the
the time to
booth,
be
Mr.
here with us
Robbins,
this
Association
fine evening,
President.
and thank you to the
All right,
candidates for
excellent.
expressing an
Teachers
interest.
at Red Creek
Good evening,
Alfred.
parents
I
and
think we're
community
ready to
members,
go.
and good evening,
My name
candidates.
is Robert.
Thank you
Klein.
all
Ready
for
in
taking
the
the time to
booth,
be
Mr.
here with us
Robbins,
this fine
Association
evening,
President.
and thank you for
All right,
excellent
excellent.
teachers at Red Creek.
Good
Good evening,
Thank you all
parents
for
and
coming.
community
Ready to
members,
go.
and
I would like to
good evening.
acknowledge
My
the
name
efforts
is-
of our
Thank you
time
all
ready
for
in
the
the
time
booth,
to be
Mr.
here with us
Robbins,
this
our
fine
teacher
evening,
president.
and thank you
All
for
right,
excellent
excellent.
evening.
Teachers at Red Creek
Good evening,
Alfred.
parents and
Thank you.
community members,
Mr.
and I'd like
Robbins,
to
acknowledge
acknowledge
the efforts of our
Thank
time
you all
ready
for
in
the
the booth,
time
Mr.
here with us
Robbins,
this
coordinator,
fine evening,
president.
and
All
thank you
right,
for
excellent.
streaming
This
evening.
event at Red Creek
Good evening,
Alfred.
parents and
Thank you.
community members,
Mr.
and
Robbins,
to
acknowledge
acknowledge
start by
efforts
giving
of
of
our
our
Thank
time
you all
ready
for
in
the
the booth,
time to be
Mr.
here with us
Robbins,
this fine evening,
president.
and
All
thank you
right,
for
excellent.
streaming
This
evening.
event at Red Creek
Good evening,
Alfred.
parents and
Thank you.
community members,
Mr.
and
Robbins,
to
acknowledge
acknowledge
start by
efforts
giving
of
of our
Thank
time
you all
ready
for
in
the
the
time
booth,
to be
Mr.
here with us
Robbins,
this fine evening, and thank you for streaming evening. Good
Good
evening, parents and community members, Mr. Robbins, to acknowledge
start by giving of our
Thank
time
you all
ready
for
in
the
the
time to
booth,
be
Mr.
here with us
Robbins,
this fine evening, and thank you for
streaming
streaming evening.
Good
Good evening, parents and community members, Mr. Robbins, to acknowledge
start by giving of our
Thank
time
you all
ready
for
in
the
the
time to
booth,
be
Mr.
here with us
Robbins,
this fine evening, and thank you for
streaming
streaming evening. Good evening, parents and community members, Mr. Robbins, to acknowledge
start by giving of our
Thank
time
you all
ready
for
in
the
the
time to be
booth,
here
Mr.
with us
Robbins,
this fine evening, and thank you for streaming evening. Good
Good
evening, parents and community members, Mr. Robbins, to acknowledge
start by giving of our
Thank
time
you all
ready
for
in
the
the
time to be
booth,
here
Mr.
with us
Robbins,
this fine evening, and thank you for streaming evening. Good
Good
evening, parents and community members, Mr. Robbins, to acknowledge
start by giving of our
Thank
time
you all
ready
for
in
the
the
time to
booth,
be here
Mr.
with us
Robbins,
this fine evening, and thank you for streaming evening. Good
Good
evening, parents and community members, Mr. Robbins, to acknowledge
start by giving of our
Thank
time
you all
ready
for
in
the
the
time to be
booth,
here
Mr.
with us
Robbins,
this fine evening, and thank you for streaming evening. Good
Good
evening, parents and community members, Mr. Robbins, to acknowledge
start by giving of our
Thank
time
you all
ready
for
in
the
the
time to
booth,
be
Mr.
here with us
Robbins,
this fine evening, and thank you for streaming evening. Good
Good
evening, parents and community members, Mr. Robbins, to acknowledge
start by giving of our
Thank
time
you all
ready
for
in
the
the
time to
booth,
be here
Mr.
with us
Robbins,
this evening, and thank you for streaming
Next we'll
evening.
hear from
Good evening, parents and community members, Mr. Robbins, to acknowledge
start by giving of our
Thank you all for the time to be here with us this evening, and
Next we'll hear from
good evening, parents and community members, Mr. Robbins, to acknowledge Thank you all for the time to be here with us this evening, and
Next we'll hear from
good evening, parents and community members, Mr. Robbins, to acknowledge Thank you all for the time to be here with us this evening,
Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community members. Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community
Now
members.
for
Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community
Now
members.
for
Rob Lindsay, Allen Starts.
Thank you all for the food feed here. Next, we'll hear from
Good evening, parents and community
Now
members.
for
Rob Lindsay,
I'm not afraid to advocate for our students by asking questions, voicing concerns, and working together for change. I firmly believe that we have to be able to express our thoughts and concerns in order to work together to build and grow the best school community that we can. I think there's still a lot of work to be done, and I feel that I have the skill set and personality to effectively lead the board. Like I said, I've worked in K through 12, and I've also spent some time in higher education, and then for the last 3 years, I've served on the Board of Education, which means I've gone through 3 budget cycles and 3 evaluations and 3 years of policy updates. I serve on multiple committees as a board member. I serve on the parent-teacher organization, which I did before I was on the board as well, and we plan and coordinate activities and try and create a positive experience for our school community. I'm on the Community Center Advisory Board, so we can kind of work to maximize what the community center can provide for our community. I'm on the Finance Committee, which I have gained a ton of knowledge sitting on the Finance Committee, but I think it's really important to understand the fiscal needs of the district so that we can be financially responsible. And then I also sit on the Policy Committee. I've served on this year while it's been the whole board, but I've also served on it previously when it was just 3 board members and the superintendent, and we went through the entire policy manual and updated each policy to try and fit the needs of our students and our community. I remember being told when I got on the board 3 years ago that it would probably take an entire term for me to really understand the role and be efficient in it. And I can say that this year I feel like I have a good grasp on what I'm doing, but I'm still continuing to learn all the time. So I hope as I finish my first term as a Board of Education member that you guys will elect me to continue on. I think I still have a lot of passion behind serving, and I would like to continue to serve with integrity and level-headedness with the experience I've gained.
Okay. Thank you. Next, we'll hear same question. What will you bring to the school board that makes you a good candidate? From Chuck Palermo.
I feel that my background, again, in community service really affords me a good way to deal with a group. But more importantly, I feel like I have a really good grasp of the involvement of our community in the operation of an organization like a school district, or just local government in general. I have never had any background in education other than corporate. I've done training for the INS, Immigration Naturalization Service back in the day. But really, my passion is more collaborative and understanding, I think, the needs of a board, but also how that translates to the educational opportunities that we can offer to not only our children, but to each other. So.
Okay. Thank you. And Stephanie Folds, same question.
Yeah, so I would touch again on my last 15 years working in higher education. I've been able to kind of be on the receiving end of kind of the products of our schools, and that's been a really positive experience. I've actually been able to work with students from Red Creek, and I'm so impressed. Actually just worked recently with David Southwick, who is going to Oswego, and was able to bring him in for a presentation about Red Creek. And he just represented the school so well, and it just is an example of the caliber of students that we have. But beyond that experience, I think it's my communication skills. I'm a firm believer in building relationships with people. I think that's really what life is, really. And if you want to break it down, it's really about relationships and trust building. Being on the board, it's really difficult because you can't make promises that you can't keep, right? We work as a board, and there's things that you want to see happen for the district. Things don't happen in education as quickly as they might in the private sector. That's just the reality. But I think trying to continue to stay, if we have a goal in mind or if there is a challenge, having the mindset to be able to work together with other people, finding middle ground. I'm kind of the peacekeeper in all of my circles, whether that's for good or for bad, but I love to find middle ground, and I think that's really important when you're on a board to be able to do that.
Thank you. Next question, which will first be going to Chuck. What do you feel are the biggest challenges facing Red Creek School District now and over the next 3 years? What are your ideas for addressing these challenges?
That's a great question. I feel some of the largest challenges, one of the biggest challenges, let me start with this, is population decline. I feel like we're losing not only families here, but families with children here. That obviously reflects, and I think we have about 700 and change students here at Red Creek. We need to look at how do we encourage and how can we work in collaboration with other entities to try to get folks to come here to the Red Creek School District, to enjoy what myself and everyone else here, I believe, in the room has understood for their whole lives, that the education here is tremendous. What we send out, these children, what we send out into the world, we do it tremendously well. And I think that's one of the big challenges that our district faces. Other than that, I think that there is a lot of opportunity for shared services within the school district and outside with villages, counties, varying agencies. So I believe that's another thing that we can address with our challenges.
Okay, thank you. Next, Stephanie Foltz.
So I definitely think one of the biggest challenges we're facing right now in Red Creek are financial pressure. We're dealing with inflation, rising energy costs, and declining tax base with, to Chuck's point, tied to lower birth rates and overall population trends. On top of that, there are state mandates around green energy and electric busing that could have significant financial impacts. We just really don't understand what those are yet. So yes, we need to be smart about controlling cost, but we also need to get creative about how we bring new resources into the district. I think there's a lot of opportunity to partner with local companies. You think about Novellus or the power plants or even Micron coming in. You know, if we're creating a workforce here, we could potentially have future employees for these companies. Are there support or resources that they could provide for us in turn for this workforce? And then we have people here that have a place here, that live here, that raise their families here, hopefully. So I think that's kind of a pipeline that we could really tap into. I also think another challenge is staffing. So it's not just about attracting new teachers, it's about keeping the great teachers and staff that we already have here. But that's tough when we're in the middle of a financial difficulty. So I think we need to get creative. We could explore options like tuition-free enrollment for staff who live outside the district, perhaps childcare support through grants, and really making sure our teachers and staff feel heard and supported. And that's not in a condescending way, it's in an intentional way to have conversations where we can really help them move the dial forward and make a difference in their lives and in their careers. Thank you.
Thank you. And Elizabeth Decker.
So I would agree with both Chuck and Stephanie that attrition is a problem that we're seeing. It's not just a Red Creek problem, it's a New York State problem, but it is something that we have to pay attention to. So I would say we need to look at how we can draw students in, how we can present ourselves as the school that local people would want to go to. And then I think we should also look at homeschool numbers and see if we can bring some of those students back in district that are currently being homeschooled, while at the same time adjusting our resources and how we're using them internally so that we can adapt to the lower numbers while still providing great opportunities for our students. I think it's also vital that we look at our culture and make sure that we're providing a positive culture for our students to learn in and for our staff to work in. A couple of things that kind of put us in a good position to do that is a relatively new administrative team that we have here. It kind of gives us an opportunity to look at some of our current practices and former practices and see where we might be able to improve and grow with that fresh set of eyes. I think another challenge is curriculum. I know we switched to a new curriculum a couple years ago here, and we have some instructional coaches and MTSS teams that are really focusing on that data and making sure that we're making data-driven decisions. But like Stephanie said, it's not going to be an overnight process, and we're not going to see results overnight either. So it's important that we continue to provide support to our teachers as they navigate that change. And equally important that we provide support to our students to make sure that they're able to reach any goals that they have. Over the next couple years, we're going to be implementing Portrait of a Graduate, and I think that's going to make some major changes to how we educate our students and provide a more holistic, well-rounded education with career-ready students. And that's going to require, again, support at all levels for our staff and for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. For the next question, if a situation arises in which your personal feelings conflict with a written board policy or protocol, how would you handle that situation? We'll start with Stephanie Folds.
Okay. So if my personal feelings conflict, it's my job, really, it's part of the oath I took, to set those feelings aside and act in accordance with my role as a board member. Now, there are times when policies and procedures might not be what's best for the district at times, or they might not be relevant anymore, and it's okay to question those in public session and to have those conversations. That's completely fine. But at the end of the day, if the board chooses to move forward with a policy, then it's really the board members, it's on the board member to kind of speak their piece and move on and kind of support the board in that decision. Obviously, that doesn't mean that you back off of something that you're really passionate about. I think you can always advocate in the future for things that you want to see change. And then I would just say that basically there might be policies set forth by the state that our funding depends on. And that's the reality that we're in. And we're not in a place, we're not lobbyists, unfortunately, and we're not able to necessarily make those changes as board members. But if you want to get involved in the community in another aspect to make those changes, you certainly can. But there are times that you have to move forward with a policy or something that you might not personally agree with.
Okay, thank you. Next, Elizabeth Decker.
So first, personal feelings aren't what drive the decision-making of a board member. It's what's right for our students, parents, and staff that have to be at the forefront of our decision-making. So having sat on the policy committee and reviewed and updated the entire manual, I have a pretty good understanding of how our policies and procedures work and are developed and implemented. So first, just NYSBA definition for policy is the broad written guidelines created by the Board of Education to chart the district's course of action. And then the procedures translate these policies into action and create the how-to steps. Usually this is developed by the superintendent or the administrators in the buildings. So that being said, what the board really looks at is adjusting policies. So if I had a policy that I felt we have in place or that we're proposing to change or put in place that I don't feel would best serve the students, parents, or staff, I would start by doing some research, look into why the policy is being presented. Is there a law that's changed? Is this a required policy or is it optional? Is it recommended by legal for some reason? And then once I've done my research, I would consider the impact that it would have on the students and the staff and the community. And then I would bring my research to the Board of Education Policy Committee, which right now is our entire board, and see if we can come up with a solution that would still fall in the confines of the laws and regulations that would be positive for the students and the staff. Policies are not one size fits all, and really they're here to best serve our district. So we have the ability to modify policies as long as they fall in the confines of the law, and so I would try to do that.
Okay, Chuck Palermo, same question.
Personal feelings. It's sort of a funny thing for me, I guess, to look at this in that way. I kind of feel like the thought process that goes into a discussion on whatever the topic is. So if you're looking at something and you want to say, hey, I think it should be this way or that way, obviously as a board, we're looking at the financial impacts. We're looking at the personnel impacts. We're looking at the student impacts. I think the personal side of this would be almost challenging to bring forward, in a sense that, do I feel something is right or wrong? I guess I kind of agree with both candidates here. You would want to look at how you could fight for something, but at the bottom base level, is it going to be fiscally, responsible? Is it going to be something that has the best interests academically for the students? There's a laundry list that we would go through, I think, before it really would be something I would want to fight for on a personal level. And maybe I'm stumbling on the personal side, but I wouldn't look at it that way.
Okay, thank you. The next question, thinking a little bit wider to the community, what do you feel are the most important current topics or issues in our community? And we'll start with Elizabeth Decker this time.
So the underlying concern that I hear in the district and the community is how we're supporting our staff and students to flourish in a way that they feel supported. And I see this kind of in a few different ways. So programming is one of the concerns, and is our program meeting the diverse needs of all of our students? And I'm going to kind of pause that thought for a minute because that's really the focus of the next question. So I'm going to come back to that. I think two-way communication is really important. In the last few years, I think we've gotten a lot better at communicating out to the district, to the community and families. But I think we are still lacking a little bit in the inward communication, and I think that will come with time. But some community members don't feel like their voices are heard or their concerns are heard. And I think some people are fearful to bring things up because they don't want a negative reaction. And I think this just needs to be a cultural shift that we work on from the board, administration, teachers, across the board to develop a healthy community dynamic built on trust and understanding. Another concern that I hear is athletics, and I know that this is extracurricular, not necessarily academic, but I think athletics play a big role for a lot of our students, their life, growth, development, and social skills that they work on. And our families are really invested in sports. This is a time where a lot of families get to come in and see their students in action. So between attrition, where we're having less students that can compete, and other competing priorities, I think our athletics are dwindling, and we need to keep opportunities available for students, taking a holistic look, working on getting strong feeder programs, bringing in coaches that are strong and will help develop students, and then listening to students and parents and coaches communicate so that we can really help students thrive here. I told Mr. Bonanno before we started that he'll probably get to ring the bell at least once for me. So he was grabbing it.
Chuck Palermo, same question. What do you feel are the most important current topics or issues in our community?
I think one of the things that I feel really, really passionate about is the need for having space to do the things that we need to do. I know, pre-K and different programs. A very big concern of mine is the old middle school, the ABC Center. I feel like there's an opportunity there that can help answer some of our social program deficiencies that I think we all are aware that we struggle with. The closest between northern Cayuga County and eastern Wayne County, the distances that our residents have to drive and we have to bring our children, it is far. It can be exhaustive. And I think that we have an opportunity here in our district to bring a little bit more centralized to us here through that kind of growth in social programs. And I agree that I think we need to foster more arts, sports in a fiscally responsible way. We need to look at how we can partner up with other agencies to better strengthen what's out there currently and what we can do and with what we have the strength here to do together. I think that's really important.
Thank you. Stephanie Folds?
So just like it's a huge challenge for the district, it's probably an even bigger challenge for local families is financial strain. So if we have families struggling, it affects everything. It's a ripple effect on our students. From housing to childcare to basic daily needs, it really just impacts them. So when we think about, in turn, if we have families that are under financial stress and students that maybe are feeling that stress, and then we have our academics that we're trying to recover post-COVID. I think COVID really did a number on our students, and hopefully we'll age out of that soon enough. But I think if those basic needs, if people are struggling with those basic needs, how can we expect them to kind of look at this next tier of academic progress? So those are two big things. In terms of the academics, I know that the district has really come a long way in using data to inform our decisions. I would say that that's great. I work in data at SUNY Oswego and do a lot of analytics, but it can be really easy to fall into a rabbit hole with that and start overcomplicating things. I think we need to use our data to assess some of the really practical, like, are our students grasping the fundamentals before we're moving them on to the next grade level? Are we making sure that we're addressing the student on an individual level and making sure that we're really preparing them before we move them ahead further and they become lost? So I think those two things are kind of working in tandem in their challenges.
Thank you. Question 5. Are there changes you'd like to see in school district policies, programs, or the various school curricula being offered? If yes, what changes and why? Bless you. And we'll start with Chuck Palermo.
Policies, programs, various school curricula being offered. I think that there has been some groundswell on this, but one of the things that I'd love to see fostered more, and I keep using this shared services and outreach programs, but I believe Rick DeRocher has been a real big proponent of getting, programs together to get kids to maybe learn about service-based business, service-based careers. When you look at some of the dwindling availability of plumbers, electricians, all of these different types of things, I think we are in a really unique place where we can see that thrive here. So I think that would be one of the big things that I would love to see continue and foster here at Red Creek.
Thank you. And Stephanie Folds, same question.
So I also was thinking about Mr. DeRocher when I was thinking about this question, and his upcoming retirement. And all the work he's done, and I know he's had help, and it's not just been him, but around the Career Center and around career exploration for our students. It's incredibly important, and I think that we have a lot of opportunity to grow that. I'd like to see some more awareness around programs like P-TECH. Those are incredible opportunities, but they only work if families know about them. We have a responsibility to make sure that information is reaching everyone, and so that they can make a choice that's appropriate for them. Again, I think we really have a lot of potential with community partnerships, whether that's alumni business owners that would host interns or allow for job shadowing, or even through some of our larger companies, could be great partners for us. They can open doors, not just for student experiences, but potentially for additional resources and support for the district as well. I think it's just a win-win, and it makes sense. And then at the end of the day, academic prep is critical, but it's only part of the picture. Again, I said this when I started, you really need to make sure that we're seeing our students all the way through the education, that we're giving them the fundamentals, but then we're giving them that support to make the next best decision to set themselves up for success. So.
Thank you. And finally, Elizabeth Decker.
Okay, so programming and curriculum development are kind of my wheelhouse, so this might be the bell question, Mr. Bonanno. I'm always open to looking at and supporting new programs and opportunities that we can present to our students, but I also think we need to make sure that we're connecting our students to what we already have available. So we have our traditional BOCES programs, which are wonderful for some students, but I don't think we maximize the use of P-TECH, like Stephanie mentioned, or Synergy. Both of these programs allow students to focus on their education while also potentially receiving their associate's degree and high school diploma at the same time at the end of the program. Students can attend and then still participate in all the extracurriculars here as a Red Creek student, so they kind of get the best of both worlds. If students want to stay here in Red Creek and still obtain college credits, we have a lot of different pathways that they can take college classes, and Mr. Gaffney, Ms. Stivini, and Ms. Blasco actually put together a really good presentation recently called The Taste of College. And I think we really just need to make sure we're getting these programs in front of our students and in front of our families so that we can try and support and foster that interest. Again, I'm all for new programming and opportunities, anything that we can do to set up success for our students, but I think that we also need to connect students with opportunities that they want to seek as individuals, and find out how they feel they can achieve those goals the best, and then support each individual student in their goals and aspirations. Mr. Droscher, like my two other candidates have said, has built the Career Center, and it really has been great to get kids interested in different careers, different schools, opportunities. I can't wait to see how it continues to develop, and it just really brings a lot of exposure and knowledge that students might not otherwise see, different jobs that they could go into. And then curriculum in the elementary and middle school, again, I know that this is relatively new. We've only been practicing this for a couple years. So I'm hoping that in the coming years, we'll be able to see how effective it's been while it's been practiced in its fidelity, and hopefully we can see some positive growth with that.
Thank you. All right, the final three moderated questions are intended for candid responses. The candidates have not seen these questions beforehand. And as with previous questions, bell ringer Bonanno will flag 30 seconds left when ringing the dinging bell when your 2 minutes are up. All right, so given our order, this will start with Stephanie Folds. Question is, what do you think the district's budgeting priorities should be given the uncertainty of federal funding?
Yeah, so I think our budget priorities always need to be centered around the students, and that could mean a lot of different things. I think we need to focus on staffing positions that have the biggest impact and work closely with our students. Our administrators are important and they support the work, but I really think, you know, it's the teachers and the staff that are in the classroom with students that are essential and really help make the district run. Without them, we wouldn't be here. So I think looking at that, And it is difficult. We're going through it right now in terms of just state budgets and trying to guess on where we're going to be at. And we have been very fortunate to have our business manager who has kept a pulse on where we are, where we're going. And it's been wonderful to be able to work under such competency. So I would just say making sure that all of our budgeting decisions are student-focused and focusing on those programs and those staff members that have the biggest impact.
Okay, thank you. Repeating the question, what do you think the district's budgeting priority should be given the uncertainty of federal funding for Elizabeth Decker?
So I would say on top of the federal funding, there's a lot of uncertainty in our state funding right now. So this has been a conversation point that we've looked at as a board. Like Stephanie said, I think we really need to focus on our hands-on jobs, the staff that is at the forefront with our students. We need to make sure that we are able to keep funding those positions. And I think we need to come up with creative solutions. So we have a really good business official right now who's great at like finding money and finding ways to move things around. I think grants have been super helpful for our small district. We have Ms. Devaney that is fabulous at writing grants and getting us money for the districts and to keep programming alive for our students. So I think budgeting priorities, I would say, would be all of our front-facing staff that work with our students every day. And then I think we just need to get creative and stay creative with our solutions.
Okay, thank you. And Chuck Palermo, what do you think the district's budgeting priority should be given the uncertainty of federal funding?
I have to say that any budget priority has to be based on what we can do with the revenues we're exposed to. So when you have a reduction in your federal aid, your state aid, even your tax base, it's always a challenge. What is Red Creek's main directive? And it's to educate the students. And I hate to say it, but I agree with both of these guys that it's academics and the teachers. I think that definitely shared services and looking outside at other districts, and I think they're going through the same things that we would be going through. I don't think this is a unique situation for any rural or not rural school district, but how can we look at these opportunities that are out there and be creative? So I think we're all sort of on the same page with that.
Thank you. The next question will go to Elizabeth Decker first. As a rural district, we've struggled with recruitment and retention. I'm talking about teachers and staff. Please provide examples of ways you would like to promote teacher and staff recruitment and retention.
So I remember back when I went to school here, we had a lot of staff that were here, and I've heard over and over again that staff would travel here because we had such a good culture and we were such a nice place to work for. I think that really that will draw people in, and if we can be known for being a place that is good to work for and empathetic to our staff, I think we'll be able to draw some people in. Again, I think we have to find creative ways to be competitive pay-wise to get people to stay here. And yeah, so I think making sure that our culture is good, making sure that we're paying comparable, and just being really strong in our recruiting efforts for those staff members.
Okay, thank you. And Chuck Palermo, same question. As a rural district, we struggled with recruitment and retention. Could you provide examples of ways you'd like to promote teacher and staff recruitment and retention?
I definitely think when any industry, when you're trying to get people to come into your company, when you're trying to get people to come into your work, it can be a challenge across the board. I don't think it's probably just school districts that struggle with that. And maybe I'm speaking out that other school districts don't have this problem, but I kind of believe that it's across the board in almost every industry that we're experiencing this out there. It's tough to keep employees in one spot and grow within an organization. That would be one of the biggest things that I think, how do you get them to come in and live here and work here? And I think housing is one of the big problems. I think you just mentioned that, you know, the people are driving in from somewhere else. Being part of that community is a challenge, and maybe that's something to look at. I gotta say, I don't know enough about the pay structure here at the village, at the school district, so I would have to get a little more educated on that, but I think that's a challenge.
Okay, thank you. And Stephanie Folds, could you provide examples of ways you would like to promote teacher and staff recruitment and retention?
Sure. So I would agree that I think a big piece of keeping people is their relationships with other people and if they feel valued. So that's definitely something that we need to prioritize as a district. Do our teachers feel heard? Do they feel valued? I also look at future teachers. You know, one thing I think about Red Creek is we had a lot of teachers that had been here. They were students and had been here, you know, as teachers themselves, or maybe they came in and met their spouse here and made a life here. Do we have students that are interested in teaching? Are we able to mentor them? Are we able to have opportunities for them to explore the field? I know that it's not an immediate response, but it could be something that if it's developed and we really put our resources behind those students and they see Red Creek as home and they already know what a beautiful area this is, they already know what type of community we have. There's so many wonderful things that I think we don't do a good enough job selling. I mean, we've got Lake Ontario and Fairhaven, and this area really is, it's an asset. It's not something that I think we should look at as a problem for us. So I think looking within, kind of a grow your own mentality, as well as focusing on those people relationships as well.
Okay, thank you. And final question of these three. It's a two-part question, and we'll go to Chuck Palermo first. How would you handle a community member or parent approaching you directly, circumventing the chain of command, with a complaint? And tangentially, what role do you believe parents and community members should have in determining school curriculum?
Okay, the first part of the question, how would I handle if someone, a parent, you said?
Came to you directly with a complaint, circumventing the chain of command.
I think anytime anybody approaches me, I would listen, but then encourage them that this is how you need to address it, or come on in and talk to the school board about this. I don't think I'd ever shut down anybody that came to me to ask a question. It would be the answering phase that I wouldn't, if I'm not educated in that, I wouldn't give it. I could understand and hear what they had to say, and then encourage them to follow the chain of command. And what was the second part?
Yep, sorry.
Oh,
The second part is, what role do you believe parents and community members should have in determining school curriculum?
I think, again, everybody's got an opinion, right? I mean, everybody believes they know more than someone else. I also think that everyone here and out there knows that the state mandates a lot. There's certain requirements that a school has to adhere to in New York State. And so I think that balance, yeah, people should absolutely have an ability to come and say, I feel this or I want that. It's for us, and I think that goes back to one of your questions about what we feel. we're following what the state would mandate for us, and then working if we can afford and how we can best serve the needs, we believe, the needs of the students' academic life here.
Okay, thank you. Stephanie Folds, same two-part question. How would you handle a community member or parent approaching you directly with a complaint? And what role do you believe parents and community members should have in determining school curriculum?
So I think it's hard for any board member to say that this hasn't happened. It certainly happens if you're out in the community a lot, which hopefully you are. I think definitely pointing people to the chain of command. I think also people need to feel welcome to raise their concerns. I think we need to remove any barriers for people to come in and speak during open session to voice their concerns. But then also as a board member, kind of, not shutting that conversation down, but, remaining appropriate, but then maybe it's informing, well, it is for me, it's informing the superintendent, it's informing the board president about this concern, because it's important. If someone's raising it, it needs to be addressed. It's just addressing it appropriately. I would also say it can be challenging too at open session because it's not a conversation. Sometimes it's someone just coming and voicing their concern, and as a board, we're not able to respond in the moment. But hoping that people understand that we do take your concerns and we do, empower the superintendent and expect the superintendent to respond accordingly. And, we're not here to manage his work, but we're certainly here to hold him accountable and the district accountable to ensure that we're being responsive. As for the curriculum, I think we need to start with just making sure parents have information on the curriculum. So we have that age-old issue in our house where my husband's yelling at my daughter because he knows the answer, but it's not the way she's been shown. And we need parents to have the information at their fingertips about the curriculum to be able to support students. I think that will help cut down on frustration. I don't think parents can necessarily make our curriculum decisions, but I think we can take their feedback as we make decisions about our curriculum.
Okay, thank you. And Elizabeth Decker, how would you handle a community member or parent approaching you directly? And what role do you believe parents and community members should have in determining curriculum?
So like Stephanie alluded to, I think every board member has probably had parents and community members come up to them with concerns. We are elected officials in this position, and so I think it's important that we hear people out and listen to their concerns and really kind of digest what their concerns are and try and understand the root of the problem, but then also explain the chain of command. So if it's a classroom issue, explain to them that they need to start with the teacher and then go to the building principal, and then it can be elevated to the superintendent. And we really need to give each level the opportunity to fix whatever the issue is, depending on what the concern is. Sometimes I might, pass the concern along just to give a heads up to the superintendent, so that he can kind of have a pulse on what's being said in the community. As far as the second part of the question, role that a parent should have in developing curriculum, curriculum changes take time, and it takes time to see results. So I would hope that there would be some patience and grace anytime that we're changing curriculum from the parents. But again, if there's a concern, we've all probably heard like the moral issues that some parents take with certain books or certain classes. I think that also has to be respected. And again, if you bring it up the chain of command, from what I've heard, we are pretty good about addressing and accommodating any of those concerns that parents have. So I don't think that they should be, necessarily dictating what happens in the classroom, but I do think that there needs to be a two-way street where we're working together to provide education for our students.
Okay, thank you very much. That is it for our prepared questions. We're going to be shifting now for the last section to audience questions. And bell ringer Bonanno over here had a few that were put in the fishbowl ahead of time for people that might be a little microphone shy. But if you do have a question and would like to address the three candidates before we have Joe read those questions that I don't even know what they are, then I just lost my train of thought because I was just imagining you reading people's questions and voices. So, any questions from the audience? I do ask that you come up to the microphone because last year we did receive some feedback that even though people thought they could be heard from their seats, the microphone couldn't pick it up, so folks watching at home or afterwards couldn't hear anything that was going on. So, any questions from the audience?
The question is, where do you stand on overseeing and filtering books available to our students?
Okay, an easy one for the first one. So I think that we need to respect parents as the guardians of their children and respect their feedback. I think that if someone's bringing up a concern, we owe it to that parent to have a thoughtful conversation. Now, we have to be very careful because it's a slippery slope. And I think luckily, I guess, maybe not so much because it's harder for me to answer this question, we have not dealt with it yet at the board level. But I, as a parent, might have similar concerns where I would take my hat off as a board member and voice them. And I think that parents have the right to do that. We are educating your children, but they're children. And I truly believe that we need to listen to any concerns and take them seriously.
Where do you stand on overseeing and filtering books available to our students?
So I think I touched on this a little in my last response, but I do think that we, again, like Stephanie said, need to take what parents say to heart, and we need to give parents a say in what their kids are being exposed to. I know I might try and find a middle ground, and I don't know what that would look like because I don't necessarily think we should completely ban books, but maybe keeping certain books that might be controversial behind the counter in the library and then requiring parental approval to take them out could kind of be a good compromise, so we could provide things if parents feel okay with it. I think it really needs to be a joint decision, though, because parents should have the right to say if they don't want their kids exposed to certain information.
And Chuck, one more time. Where do you stand on overseeing and filtering books available to our students?
I think it obviously as parents and community members that would have some sort of a problem with the written word. Obviously, when we touched on the last question, would we ever turn away somebody's concern? I don't think any of us believe that we would do that. Our role in putting a governor on education or what the child is exposed to, I think is a very serious matter, but I also think that is a collaborative discussion that should probably be handled behind the scenes in the boardroom with parents in addressing those concerns. But I would say I would myself err on the side of the text being out there. We're in a world where they're inundated with information, and as educators and parents, I feel like we need to be the ones driving that bus to help them understand that information that's coming at them, pulling it away, and at times pulling back on certain levels of it. But I think restricting and book burning and whatever, I don't think it's ever going to be a win for the child.
Okay.
If that answered that.
Thank
so we have another question. It's a two-part question. Mrs. Decker, we're going to start with you. What role, if any, do you believe religion should play in a public school curriculum? Second part, if you believe religion has a role, which religion would be represented?
I think our public schools should be inclusive of anyone coming from any background. Pretty much across the board, I feel like we shouldn't be trying to convince students of any sort of religious or political affiliation. I think they should come to those conclusions on their own based on their lived experience and their family life. I don't think that's the role of the school. However, if we were to educate on any religion, I would not pick one. I know there are classes out there that exist that explore many world religions, so I feel like if there were a setting where we were exploring world religions, we could explore many of them, but I would never want to just focus on any one religion. And I would say the world religion part only if it's appropriate curriculum for the class that we're offering.
Okay. Chuck, I'll read it to you one more time, two parts. What role, if any, do you believe religion should play in a public school curriculum? Second part, if you believe religion has a role, which religion would be represented?
No, I don't think that it does. I wouldn't pick any religion because no, I don't think it belongs in the school. As a junior and senior here at Red Creek, I taught religious ed for the Catholic Church. We picked up the kids and brought them. It had nothing to do with the school. It was totally outside of the school. I don't believe that the school should have any role in a religion or a religious setting at all.
Thank you. Okay, Stephanie? What role, if any, do you believe religion should play in a public school curriculum? And if you believe religion has a role, which religion would be represented?
I also don't believe that there should be a role for religion in public education. I think if anything, we need to educate our students on all different types of beliefs and religions, and just more so educating them on how to respect people's diversity and their different beliefs. But in terms of in our curriculum, as part of the day-to-day, no, I don't believe there's a place for it.
Thank you. All right, we have one more question. And I believe we're going to start with you, Chuck.
Oh.
Okay. Some of the handwriting's a little, I'll try my best. If I mess it up, I do apologize. If an issue comes up and in your mind, you know it's not right, but the board wants to go against your mind, what would you do?
I mean, if anybody knows me, I'd say that to them. But if that's what the majority of the board wanted, obviously that's the way we would go. I think I'm pretty good at speaking my mind and why I feel one way or another. But if that's what the board decided, then that's the way we would go. I don't think that there's any room for anger or browbeating on that.
Okay, thank you. All right, Stephanie, if an issue comes up and in your mind, you know it's not right, but the board wants to go against your mind, what would you do?
Well, I think you can first try to build consensus and make your case. It's always good to try to build that consensus when you're voting, but you do have a vote, and you can use it. So if you feel strongly enough about something, it is okay to vote no, even if the rest of the board is going the other direction, knowing full well that your no doesn't necessarily change things, but you know in your own conscience that you're making the right decision. So you do have a vote. Always good to try to find consensus first, but if I felt strongly enough about something, I wouldn't vote yes if I didn't believe in it.
Thank you. All right, and Mrs. Decker? It's so hard not to call you Buffy. All right. If an issue comes up and in your mind you know it's not right, but the board wants to go against your mind, what would you do?
I would look at this a lot like my policy question, and I would look at whether or not it's supporting our students and our district, whatever the choices that we're making. I'm not shy with my opinions, so I would advocate for what I think is right. I would try and have a discussion with the board and just see if we could come to a place where I felt whatever the decision would be would better serve our students and our district. And then I would probably, if I really felt strongly that it was going to be a bad decision for our students, I would vote no. And I think that that's okay to do as a board member if you don't feel strongly, but then after that, you still have to support the rest of the board, because I would be a vote of 1 of 7, and we still have to continue to function as a board and support each other in the district the best we can.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bonanno.
Good job.
So that concludes this forum. Thank you, candidates. Best of luck to all of you. Folks in the audience, thank you for being here and showing your support and your questions. Get the word out. This will be available to watch on YouTube also. So if somebody couldn't be here, you can send them the link for the live stream. Those available on various social media outlets and such. If you can't find it, send me an email. I'll get it to you. Otherwise, thank you, everyone. Thank you, candidates.
Thank you.
And get out and vote when the time is right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. May 19th.
May 19th. I'm terrible at reading lips, sorry.
12
Yeah.
until 8 in the high school foyer.
12 to 8 in the high school foyer, May 19th. Bring friends who are residents of the district
Bring a dish to
and of voting ages.